Hi! In this tutorial, we are going to get you acquainted with some basics of JSON path syntax used in vREST. As we all know that JSON path is basically used for locating data in JSON object, and in vREST it can be used either in Variable Extractor tab or in the JSON body assertions in the property column of assertions tab. In this tutorial, we will cover how you may use JSON path for JSON object or for JSON array. Let's first understand how you may extract information from API response in JSON format using JSON path expression. So this is our API response of this test case. Now suppose you want to extract the _ID property of this API response. Then you may define a variable, say contact ID. Name of the variable can be any alphanumeric string, and JSON path will be _ID. As this property is a root level property, so we can just specify the property name as it is for JSON path. Now let's extract a nested property in the JSON response. Suppose we want to extract the Twitter ID property in this JSON response. So let's define a variable named as Twitter, and then specify the JSON path as links.twitterid. So the nested properties can be accessed by using the dot operator. Now let's extract the information from nested array item. Suppose we want to extract the pin code of this first address from the API response. So let's define a variable, say as pincode1, and then specify the JSON path as addresses.0.pincode. Or you may also specify this JSON path like this. As you can see, array indexes are 0 based for JSON array. For accessing first item, use index 0, and for second, use 1, and so on. Now suppose you want to store the count of array items in a variable. So let's define a variable, say addresses count, and then specify the JSON path as addresses.length. Now suppose you want to store the whole links object, and then it is also the same. Just define a variable, say linksobj, and specify the JSON path as links. Now let's take a special case. Suppose your JSON keys also have dots like we have here in our API response for email field. As you know, dots have a special meaning in JSON path. Suppose we want to extract email.0 field. First, define a variable name, say as email1, and specify the JSON path like this. Notice the additional square brackets and quotes here. Let's talk about one more special case. Suppose you want to extract the whole API response in a variable. Then just define a variable and specify the JSON path as $. Here, $ means the whole response body. We may also use this JSON path in JSON body assertions for validating the API response. As you may see that we have used the same JSON path for defining our JSON body assertions as well. Now suppose your API response is a JSON array instead of JSON object. JSON path works in the same way here as well. For demonstration, we are using the list contact API, which returns a list of contacts as API response. Now this is our sample JSON array response. Let's see how we may define JSON body assertions using JSON path to validate this API response. To validate the email ID of the first contact from the list, we may add a JSON body assertion like this. Now in the property column, specify the JSON path for email property of the first contact, that is 0 in square brackets .email. Now we may specify other details of the assertion like this. Now suppose we want to validate the length of the array. Then we may specify another JSON body assertion like this. Now, in the property column, specify length, then equals operator, and specify 2 in the expected value. So, in this way, you may validate each individual array item. For more information on validation, please view our previous tutorial on response validation. You may also use the same JSON path expression to extract the information from API responses in Variable Extractor tab like this. So these were some basics of JSON path syntax oftenly used in vREST. You may access the vREST user guide and then JSON path syntax section to know more.